DevOps loop is not how software gets built. This is fake news. So Mike, you keep me honest on this, okay? I've never worked on a development team unless it was doing traditional development. That's how it worked, okay? So let me explain why I say that, show you how software really gets built. So this is when I started my career. My first product was actually when I was in college doing medical office software. We did this waterfall technique. My first project out of college, we wrote specs for a year before we ever touched a line of code. Now how things have changed. Anyway, it was a big, giant tsunami wave of problems waiting to happen until we all started building code, checking in code, and finding out all the problems that we had with it. So along comes, in this process, we're all checking things into one master repository, so source code manager, whatever it might be, eventually doing gigantic builds, building that up and trying to resolve the problems before we could ever release it into production. Along comes Sprint, and we said, well, let's just shorten that cycle. Let's make the units of work smaller, the releases smaller, and we'll do it incrementally. And then that way, by the way, when you were doing those 1 year, 2 year, 6 month releases, by the time it was released, it was wrong because the specs and the needs have already changed, right? So let's do this much more quickly, where we can release software incrementally, adjust, pivot, and adapt to what the business needs, the customer or whoever we're building this for. And then along comes DevOps, which really was about, let's take how we build software and think about how we automate more of this, but more importantly, how we take that idea of making smaller units of work and delivering parts of this so that people can work independently instead of everything showing up at once, causing one big set of problems instead of work. The problem is we took the same set of steps in this diagram that we had in the waterfall, right? Those are all the same things. There's nothing different. And we laid it out in a loop. Well, that's not how we build software in DevOps, right? Otherwise, we just have a waterfall that looks like a let's do this again. And we don't do it that way. So in practice, what DevOps really is about is distributed development, whether distributed geographically or our work is distributed amongst people, all working on their parts, right? And working on different paces of when their pieces are either complete or ready to test or ready to integrate. And we use a continuous integration process that's running all the time. Anytime anybody checks in code, we are building that together. Scripts kick off tests that we might run either before, during, and after that build process. And so it's about taking these and doing this many, many, many times before something ever gets released. But that something may be small, it may be large, that goes into production. So as we move through this process, those things eventually show up in test environments because in a lot of our worlds, especially if you're doing like a SaaS or something that you're supporting customers on, you may have many, many different production environments. You may have 10 different environments you're releasing code into, but they vary based on market, customer, version, et cetera. So you're testing those in different environments, releasing them to whatever production environments those belong to. The point being is, all of this work is happening and flowing into this process. There is a central part of it where pieces of it come together, but it doesn't all arrive at the same time. Just parts of the work flow in at different points in time. So this is what DevOps really looks like. It's more like a multiverse than it is a loop, than an infinity loop. Is every one of those people are working their way through this process with a piece of work. That could be a large piece of code, could be several code changes, could be small changes. And so as they plan their work in step one, they're begin development. I'm going to modify this code, I'm writing some new code, getting ready to test it. Build some tests, maybe I automate those things as part of my unit tests. Go through that build process, that CI/CD, right? We need to integrate it in something to be able to see that it works, put it into a test environment, either on the developer's machine or something that's set up by platform engineering. And we go through this process for every one of those little bits. Eventually, some of them actually get combined together to be released into production and then deployed into test and development environments and then operate. But the truth of it is we are actually empowering people to do lots of work at the same time and work a lot of it at their own pace and their own kind of skill set of what they're able to do and release and the timing of releasing that. It's about getting it to come together and then what parts of it make it into production, whether we do automated deployments or whether we do that through some manual process to say, this is ready to go, we've QA'd it, it's gone through security, we've applied whatever security designs to that. Now, we're now in the platform era of DevOps, which is we need to think of DevOps as a platform. It's not a tool chain anymore. It's really about a platform of congruent steps that are all happening because they're sharing data and process across different disciplines, whether it's test or security or development or operations. And we don't want to be in the tool business. We don't want to be in the tool integration business. So that's why it's important to think about DevOps, DevSecOps, all of these things as platforms that we're working on. And it's working together for us rather than us making tools work together. So that's my quick talk. That's how software happens. Am I close? Am I on spot here, Mike? Okay. Yeah, that's how software really gets created. So when you see the infinity loop, say, that's bullshit. I know that's not how software gets created. It's all these multiverse little things that happen in there, and they'll go, you've been watching too many Avengers and Marvel movies, so have fun. All right, thank you for your time.